Playing Aalto these past few days made me realize that Kuro games put a lot of effort into hidden mechanics that players can abuse to make their favorite characters much stronger in terms of outputting high amounts of damage over a short period of time. If you've been watching my character breakdown videos for a while now, you can clearly see a trend at this point. For example, Sanwon needs you to find a faster way to start her basic attack 5 animation for her personal damage buff. Danjin wants you to fill her forte much faster and use Sanguine Pulse combo before she does a heavy attack for massive damage, and Yang Yang wants you to jump instead when using her forte, which is much faster and consumes less stamina. Aalto is no different from these characters as well. At first glance of his kit, you might even think that he's the weakest character that we have in the game so far, which is a very big misconception. And it's no surprise that you will find him at the bottom of many tier lists that you can find on the internet. But I don't really blame them, because most people are not comfortable spending an awful amount of time trying to figure out how to tie every major part of his kit together that outputs the highest amount of damage, which is where I come in. If you're new here on the channel, welcome to another video that belongs to the character breakdown series, where I test your favorite characters for days and figure out how to use them effectively in Within Waves. As I always say in my character breakdown videos, this will not be a generic guide where I just read character descriptions, because you can do that yourself. What this video rather does is to see how Aalto's kit affects his playstyle and figure out how we can tie everything together to play him more effectively. If this video turns out to be informative or enjoyable in any way, be sure to leave a like and subscribe to help support the channel, because it helps me out tremendously. Here's what I'm going to be covering in this video: Aalto's actual role in the game, the basics of his kit, how his talents and sequences affect his playstyle, advanced mechanics to output more damage, best teammate and build, and lastly, optimized rotations that you can use to make him dish out more damage. Aalto is one of the 4-star sub-DPS characters that we have in the game, and the reason I said sub-DPS is that he can grant 23% aero damage amplification to the next character that activates his outro skill, which will make more sense to run him with another character like Jiyan, since he's currently the best aero damage dealer. But that becomes a problem because he has one of the worst concerto efficiency in the game. His forte circuit does not regenerate any concerto energy aside from the little amount that you get when he deals damage to the enemy, which begs the question, is it good as a DPS then? And the answer to that is absolutely. Aalto has a way of misdirecting not only his enemies because of his taunting skill, but his kit overview as well. His resonance skill will create a misgate, an object that looks like him which taunts the enemy, and fires missed missiles upon activation, but the missed missiles damage has a very terrible scaling. His liberation will create something called a Gate of Quandary in front of him that increases his attack by 10% when bullets passes through them, lasting for 10 seconds with an okay damage scaling at level 10. His forte circuit basically revolves around shooting bullets through the missed gate created by his skill or 4th basic attack, which generates forte stacks. When you dash through the missed gate, your forte stacks will then be consumed, where he enters the missed cloak dash state and creates missed missiles that hits the enemy with a terrible scaling as well. But don't let everything I've said so far fool you, because you need to remember that Aalto is a master of misdirection. His first inherent skill came as a surprise to me because it will allow him to regain stamina when he enters the miscloak dash state, and I kept wondering why he would need to regain stamina. That's when it hit me that Gan characters consume stamina when they use their mid-air attacks, and the scaling on his mid-air attack is too good for something that you can spam while you're in mid-air, when paired with his S3 that will create 2 more bullets and deal 50% more damage when they pass through the missed gate created by his skill or 4th basic attack, basically turning your mid-air attacks into a machine gun. For his second inherent passive, feel free to ignore it. It will make your heavy attack always crit, but the damage per second is really low when you compare it to the machine gun mid-air attacks. Now that the basics are out of the way, let's get into the more advanced mechanics. Aalto's damage potential is locked behind his sequences, which shouldn't be a problem to get if you pulled on Camellia's banner or you've been playing the game for a while now. To play Aalto more effectively as a DPS, you need to enter the Miscloak dash state before you start dealing damage with his mid-air attacks. And the reason for doing that is because his S5 will allow him to get 25% aero damage bonus for 6 seconds. All his other sequences are also great, but don't bother getting his S6 because it's not needed to output the highest amount of damage. So this is basically how you play Aalto. You first generate a miss gate with his 4th basic attack, which can be activated by simply swapping into Aalto and spamming your basic attacks. Enter the Miscloak state by dashing into the miss gate, but cancel that state with his echo skill. Intro from your sub DPS to Aalto uses liberation, skill, jump, and rain bullets on the enemy. When he lands on the ground, do basic attacks until you create another miss gate and wait for his skill to come off cooldown while doing basic attacks. Enter the miss gate again and move towards the enemy to refresh the 25% aero damage buff, but press your skill button to get back to the same position that you were. Jump and rain bullets on the enemy all over again. Do this until you do a 3rd jump attack to help generate more resonance energy, and then intro with your healer. That's basically how you play Aalto, but I'll go in detail at the optimized rotation section. For his teammates, any healer will do just fine, but Shorekeeper should provide the best buffs. Since you'll be using your mid-air attacks, which are considered basic attacks, Sanhua will be your go-to sub DPS character because of her 38% basic attack damage outro buff. Aalto is also a single target focused character, so having a well-invested sub DPS Sanhua is really good for the large area of effect Ice Detonation damage. For his weapon options, the Static Mist is the only weapon that I recommend, which you can get on the standard banner, but if you don't have that, the only 4-star weapon that I'll recommend is the relativistic jet because of the high base attack. For his echoes, the Sierra Gale is your best set, but Lingering Tunes is a close second. We do not have a 5-star weapon that buffs basic attack damage, so your main priority is to stack up as much elemental damage bonus as you can to make up for the loss of basic attack damage bonus, since they are both additive to each other per the game's damage calculation. The 3 cost should be double elemental damage bonus, but I'm currently running attack because it has the best substat. The 4 cost should be crit rate or crit damage, depending on whatever that you're lacking, based on the kind of weapon that you're using on him. And the 1 cost will be attack main stat. Now let's go over his optimized rotations. I'll be using Shorekeeper as my healer, so you first need to fill about 75% of your concerto energy, and then use her liberation and echo skill. Swap to Sanhua, and then start her basic attack 5 animation for her personal damage buff. But you can skip this step if you don't have a well-invested Sanhua. After the basic attack 5 animation, swap to Aalto and then spam his basic attacks to get the miss gate and then dash through it to enter the Miscloak state, but use the echo skill while he's in that state. After the first hit of the monkey echo, swap to Sanhua, use our liberation, skill, Heron Echo, and then intro with Aalto. Uses liberation, skill, jump, and then start raining fire on your enemies. Make sure to hit the peak of your jump before you start firing to do more damage. Right after touching the ground, spam your basic attacks to generate another miss gate, and then wait for your skill to come off cooldown. Enter the miss gate to properly reposition yourself while moving towards the enemy, and then use your skill again. Using your skill while moving towards the enemy, make sure that the miss gate that is created by the skill is located between you and the enemy. So every shot that you fire will pass through the miss gate, which basically turn into a machine gun. Jump and rain bullets on the enemy again, and repeat the process until you finish 3 jump attacks and then intro to your healer. Keep in mind that this is one of many ways to do more damage with Aalto, but this is certainly the easiest way that I could find because my guides are known to be a bit difficult to implement from the feedback that I've gotten from you guys over the past few months. Aalto is the perfect example of don't judge a book by its cover. There are many characters in Withering Waves whose main playstyle have gone unnoticed because you need to spend some time to test them out before you can actually get the most value out of them. I'm really glad you made it this far. Consider liking, subscribing, and tell me who you want me to cover next. Catch you guys in the next one. Bye bye.
So please whatever.